welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I have a couple of fun crafts for you to do. I can't even talk. Round two. Hey there, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I have a couple of fun crafts for you today. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. For today's projects, we'll be working on Rustic Americana style home decor crafts for July 4th, and that was a really long title, but let's get started with project number 1. For this project, I'm going to use these 10-inch chunky slat boards from Dollar Tree. I've got 5. I would have liked more, and I would have liked the longer ones, but I don't have them in stock, but that's okay. We'll use what we have. And then this piece of salvage wood board, it's about 3.5 inches in width. I'm going to cut them all down to a 10-inch length. Some of those chunky slat boards are a little bit longer. I'm going to make sure everything's cut down to the right size off camera. And then I've got this thin board I'm going to use for framing. I picked up at the Restore or Habitat for Humanity, whatever you want to call it. All right, now you could elect to use, if you have this in stock from Dollar Tree, these thinner boards with the thinner slat boards because they are longer. And you could just use all slat boards if you want. You don't have to use the thicker board up top like I'm going to use. All right, and then you could use like paint stick for framing. That would work, the longer size. And yes, to answer your question, I could have made my sign longer with using those longer boards, but I wanted the thicker boards. So here I am, I'm going in a vertical direction for my sign. If I'd had longer, thicker boards, I would have went horizontal and changed the direction of the boards, but that's okay. I'm working with what I've got. Here you can see it all cut and ready to go. I'm ready to work on it. I am going to use these bigger stars, I think, at this point. Some of these were done from another project, so I really only have to paint one, but I thought smaller stars would look cute too. I will have the link down below. These are Crafting with Kimber wonky stars. And but I thought the bigger stars would work better on here because, see, this board is mostly covered by the framing. And I thought if I put these up here, they will come down into that first board a little bit to give maybe an illusion that that first board isn't as wide as it is. So that was my idea. I'm going to use Waverly Antique Wax mixed with water to start out. Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color drop cloth, my standard Americana colors. Dixie Belle in Rusty Nail, all chalk paints, of course, and Dixie Belle in Dusty Blue. Okay, all right, let's get on to staining. Now, in the process of my staining, I forgot, my framing is going to go on top and around my boards, so I have to kind of sand the perimeter off because I like raw wood to raw wood when I use wood glue, so you'll see the edges sand off in a minute. And the framing, as I stain them, I'm just going to keep them stained. I'm not going to paint over them or anything like that. All right, here I am. If the stain is dry, I'm painting my one star that I have to do because, like I said, the other ones were already done. And then I'm just staining my 2 boards that are going to be white, and we'll move right into the red boards that are going to be red, which of course is 3 because I only have 5 boards. And then we'll go into the blue. Here you can start to see my outer perimeter. I had to go kind of sand that staining off. My husband always tells me raw wood to raw wood is the best adhesion for wood glue. So there you go. Now, I decided to put a couple of paint sticks in here to raise up because I thought last minute I want to add a quote to this. So I painted a couple of my paint sticks. I did the staining and I did the painting, and they're about 8 inches long each. All right, so those I just painted off camera, and now I'm going to come in and distress everything. And see, even as I'm distressing on the star, you can see how that stain's coming through underneath. And then everything is all done. It gets a little boring watching me sand. But look at that wonderful staining and the depth and the painting and the distressing, everything. I just love how it turns out, all nice and rustic. All right, so for the quote, it's very simple, very easy. America, established 1776. You can see in the upper left corner, I just made a page with a couple of different sizes, so whatever project you might be working on, and if you need to resize it more, you can. There will be a PDF and a PNG link to my blog in the description box for you, so you can go pick those up for any of your projects. And so mine are done. I've cut them out in vinyl. If you don't have an electronic cutting machine, you can use the PDF and then some like carbon paper and trace them out and then paint them on. Or you can just do it freehand if you've got really super beautiful handwriting. I don't. I'm using vinyl. So we'll get these on here. I think it looks great. And I like the idea because I was just going to do them down on the slat boards, but I thought, pop those up on the paint sticks, and it gives it a little bit more personality along with the stars that are kind of popped up as well. Now I'm going to be using this quick hold glue. I love this glue. I say it all the time, but we always have new people watching. It's from the makers of E6000. What I love about it is we all know E6000, like it takes 24 hours before you can even touch it. This will quick hold in about 10 minutes so you can kind of continue on with your projects, and then 24 hours to cure. So that makes it really nice. Okay, so getting my little paint sticks up on top, and I love how they kind of blend in, but they still stand up and out. And now, of course, I'm using my wood glue, and we'll get this sign put together. And don't worry, I will skip ahead a little bit because there's nothing more boring than watching me paint glue onto wood. And you're wondering, why are you using a paintbrush? Because wood glue is so weird on my fingers. I don't mind getting my hands dirty, y'all know it, but trying to peel wood glue up off of it, nope, not for me. So I like to use a paintbrush. Plus, I don't want the tip of my wood glue to get clogged, so I dip a paintbrush in it. And I don't use the tip at all for pouring. Anyway, as you can see, heavy paint cans on top to keep those boards down while I clamp it for a while. And then once that's done and ready, I'm coming in with some black chalk paint mixed with water and a fan brush. Could hardly say the word mixed. And I tap my fan brush to get splatters onto my project, again, to give it a little bit more 3D look. Not heavy, and I don't do real heavy on the frame either. I'll just pick certain spots, as you can see here, on each one to make it blend in with the splatters on the sign, but not be like splattered all over. I don't like too much. And then, of course, last up is getting our framing into position. Again, like I said, like how this turned out. Did I say that? I was thinking it. Like how this turned out. Nice, easy, rustic Americana, but you can make it as rustic or not as rustic as you want. And of course, you can make this more vertical or more horizontal versus vertical. Now I'm bringing in the big wonky stars from craftingwithkimber.com, getting those into position. And once I do that, that makes this project complete. We'll take a look at the results at the end of the video. You kind of saw a little sneak peek at the beginning anyway. Okay, let's move on to our last project, number 2. For this project, I'm going to be using some fabrics here. Now, you could just use, 2 colors, basically, if you want. But you know how I am. I'm going to use a bunch of colors. Here's some wooden dowels. I pick up these multi-pack of wooden dowels at Walmart. And then these are these like bead end caps. You can get an unfinished wood section at Hobby Lobby. It fits 2 of them, but I didn't have all the same size. So I'm going to have to make my last one. I'll drill it out a little bit later and make it bigger. I've got these smaller stars. You can use whatever stars you want, even the Crafting with Kimber stars. These already had the holes in them. Got them at Walmart. These are 3 fabrics I get at Walmart. All right, for my red, and then for my blue, which will be the star area, these fabrics, I think the flower and the one stripe on top came from Hobby Lobby. The other one I couldn't tell you. And this is like some linen towel fabric. Again, you can get it from Hobby Lobby. And then this is some thick batting. It doesn't matter how thick or thin if you even want batting. I want it to make our flags a little bit stiff. I think I picked that up at Joann's, but I'm sure Hobby Lobby has it. All right, so my 3 fabrics, I've ripped everything out ahead of time. These are all going to be the same size, so it's about 4 inches in height and about 13.5 inches in width. Kudos for me for using a clear ruler because you can really see it, right? All right, and then my little white area for the star is about 3.5 inches squared, and then my little star area is, somewhere about 3-inch squared for all 3 of my flags. All right, you can make as many flags as you want. And again, you could use all the same red color, all the same blue color. You don't even have to have white underneath. So you could have 2 colors and you're done. So however you want it. So all flags are going to be made the same. We're going to fold it in half. And then we're going to have the little white area on top, or a cream area in this case. It's Americana. And then a little blue area on top. Okay, and I'm just kind of seeing which ones I like to go with each one. I'll use a little safety pin for the star. And then for our batting, what we're going to do is, the dowel is going to fit on the left side. Okay, so I'm going to make my batting so it fits the area where the dowel isn't. Obviously, right? Understandable, probably better to watch. So here's my dowel. See, I'm making it so it's just fits that area to the right of the dowel. Little bit smaller all the way around like that. Okay, and then here I am drilling my one bead cap out a little bit better. Doesn't take much, just drilling out a little bit bigger for that one big dowel that I have. And then these are the paints I'm going to be using: a drop cloth, Waverly Antique Wax mixed with water. And for my flags and for the pole and the little end cap, I'm just going to stain them. Okay? And then the stars, of course, I'm going to stain and then paint over them in the drop cloth, just like we did the last project. And then, of course, I'll distress everything and, make it look a little bit more rustic. Finishing up my one last dowel and now painting the star. And if you have stars, of course, and you have like a crocodile or whatever, or if not, you can use a tiny drill bit and drill little holes in it if you want to hang them from the safety pins like I'm going to do, or you can just glue them on straight if, you don't want to safety pin them or you don't want to make holes in your stars. Use what you have with or without holes. There you go. That's what I want to say. All right, here I'm distressing a little bit. You don't really see the distressing on the poles as much, but it's just kind of lightening them up and giving a little bit of variation of dark and light. All right. And it's always hard to kind of, distress something round. So I'm using a little piece of sandpaper off of my little sander holder there and distressing as good as I can. And then back to the star, of course, just distressing around the edges through the center a little bit, getting that wax to kind of pop up through it, give us a little bit of depth. There we go. Okay, and then I'm just going to use my Beacon Fabri-Tac glue and wood glue my dowels into the end of the bead cap. This one not so much because I barely made the hole bigger so that dowel fits into that bead cap, but these, will go all the way in. And if you don't want anything at the top of your dowel, don't put anything at the top of your dowel. As I like to say, you do you and you make it your style and your creativity. It will turn out beautiful any way you do it. I am just simply here to give you a little inspiration, all right? Wiping off that excess glue. And then off camera, I did paint a few of Crafting with Kimber stars, and I have two sizes here because I'm not sure at this point what size I'm going to use. I wanted some to put down in the container we're going to use, and here's everything already distressed. This is the container I'm going to use. I picked up at a thrift show for a couple dollars. It's a really tall vintage jar here, of course. So I've got it all cleaned up and ready to go. You could use anything for a container, of course. And then I've got these 3 round wood balls you could pick up at Hobby Lobby in the unfinished wood section, and 3 different ribbons here. And I've got one done, you can see to the right, with the crochet trim from Dollar Tree. And then this is just some other, and you just kind of crisscross the ribbon back and forth. I add a little bit of glue as I'm going along, crisscrossing the ribbon back and forth. So I've got 2 side center seams there where I cross back and forth, and can I say back and forth enough? And you just keep covering it until your ball is covered, obviously. But I thought these would look good down in the jar too, with red, white, and blue, ribbon covered round balls inside the jar. I just thought it would give it something else. All right. So you can decide what you want down in there. You might have a whole better idea than I do, but I just kind of want to show you really quickly how to cover the wood ball with some ribbon. All right? All right, let's put our flag together. If you're a gluer, you're going to glue your batting in. Now, you need something in there because otherwise your flag's just going to fall downward. You could use a piece of cardboard if you want. That would work fine too. Something to make your flag stiff. And then you're going to glue your flagpole in, and then, whatever you're using on top for your star area, if you're going to use a cream and then the blue like I am, you're going to glue it all down. You're going to do the same on all 3 flags. If you're a sewer, I'm going to kind of just pin right here beside that dowel so I know where it kind of the space the dowel's going to take up, and I'm going to open the flag up first because I want to sew my star area on top first, okay? Then I'll put the batting in or a cardboard. Foam board would work, and I'm going to sew around that, okay? Now, of course, if you are a sewer and you do decide to use foam board or cardboard, I would probably cut it about a 1/2 inch smaller than your actual flag area because you're not going to be able to sew through those, right? You can sew through the batting if you use that, but if you use that stiffer material, you need that perimeter around it to be able to sew the fabric of your flag together. Hope that's understandable. All right, now I'm just coming up. You can see my pin there. I'm going to pull that out and come right up where I kind of had that pinned. Probably about a 1/2 inch for me for the size dowel I'm using, leaving a 1/2 inch space on that left side. And here everything is sewn and ready to go, coming all the way up. And then, of course, my flagpole should fit right inside. And I will use Beacon Fabri-Tac glue and still glue it in just a little bit so the flag doesn't slide. Now, I did all three the same Let's Talk flags. I'm doing a bouquet, and I realize I want one of my flags to the left. And if I left it that way, your star would be drooping downward, right? So I had to pull it all out and re-sew one where my star area is on the opposite side so that it would, you know, look right when I had a couple of flags pointing one way and one flag pointing the other. So kind of pay attention to that, okay? You don't want your star area drooping downward. That would look kind of funny. You want the stripes kind of drooping downward, so to speak, only we're not going to droop because our flags are nice and stiff. All right, here I am just kind of gluing my flags up into position, and now I've got my stars and my cute little safety pins. I'm going to go ahead and safety pin those on, making sure, of course, that my safety pin does not come through the back of my flag. There we go, making sure it all looks nice and cute. Now, if you were doing like a 4th of July barbecue or something, you could do, you know, a bouquet of 3 flags or 1 flag looking really cute coming out of maybe like a, you know, a can. You know, reuse a can. You could Mod Podge some, you know, cute paper onto it or something like that. I, of course, am going to use my jar. Now, the lid, when you open it normal, kind of hangs slanted, and I want it more closer to the side of the jar because it kind of interferes with my flags a little bit. So I just turn the lid around, and now it hangs a little bit closer to the side, of course. Nice and easy. And then I'm going to throw some shredded paper in there. You could put that whatever container you choose, of course, some shredded paper. Put my flags in. My jar diameter is quite big, so that's why I thought about putting the, you know, ribbon wrapped wood balls into the jar as well, because it will kind of help take up that space and hold those flags up even better. And then I decided to go with a couple of small wonky stars from craftingwithkimber.com. That way I have 5 stars total, odd number, right? They always say when you're designing, odd numbers look best. So I'll get my ribboned wood balls in there, and that'll help, like I said, hold my flags into position. And I'll just throw the couple of stars in there so you can see them a little bit. And here's what that looks like, just kind of laying in there like I just threw a handful of stuff in the bottom of my container. And then I'm taking some thicker twine that I get at Walmart. I'm not going to do a whole lot to this because I want the flags, you know, and the stuff inside to be a little bit more center stage. So I just wrapped that twine around, made a little bow, going to add a couple of beads, one at each tail of our twine there. Of course, I tie a little knot at each end, cut off the excess, smoosh the end of that, and then you don't even see it in the final looks because it was a few days later, but I do walk by and think the jar just needs something else, so I just used my water-based chalk paint, and I did some little splatters around on the jar, and it just kind of poofed it up a little bit, so there's an idea for you, and that makes this project complete. So I hope you like both of these Rustic Americana style projects today. Leave me a comment down below and let me know which project you would like to make right now. And we have lots more 4th of July projects coming up. I am just blasting you this whole month of June with 4th of July. I love making 4th of July. I don't know what it is. It's just fun. I hope you enjoy it too. If you did in fact like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it if you like, because it really does help my channel to grow. And if you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out, you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off, you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another video from me. Now, before I go, normally I leave you with one thought, but I'm going to leave you with 2. So thought number 1 has a little backstory to it, and I'll try to tell it quickly, but our pastor was going on vacation, and he asked one gentleman that normally will fill in for him to give a message, and then he asked me, and I sat on the other chair going, what? What? Can I pray about that first? And I did, but God immediately confirmed that yes, I have some words I'd like you to share. And I stared at my pastor in horror because it was going to be the first time that I ever shared in public, other than, like women's Bible study that I teach every week. And it's not like sharing with you guys where I read what I wrote to you. It's easy to read and record, but to stand in front of a group of people. So I will have a link down below in the description box. Right in front of that link is some little movie emojis. All right. It'll take you to our small little YouTube channel from our church to the video where I do give that talk. I apologize because I couldn't figure out how to get the camera in closer, so I'm quite far away, but you can still hear the message wonderfully. And also, I do play a video in there, but of course, you know, things happen and the camera's so far away, you can barely hear the volume and you can't even see the picture, which is fine. But the movie clip is basically, I'm going to tell you right here, about a gentleman asking Jesus to heal his loved one. But Jesus basically stated, you know, it's not her time. I love you. God loves you. That's the gist of the movie clip. All right. I will give you the timestamp of where you can start my message, so you can skip ahead of the stuff at the beginning if you want, and then the movie clip is about 6 minutes long, so you could just kind of fast forward through that. But the rest of the message is great. I hope you enjoy it. It's about 35-40 minutes, but I thought I'd share that with you. I always get a lot of comments. They'd love to hear me, you know, speak longer or, you know, anything like that. So there's your chance to go check it out. Don't make fun of me because I was really nervous, and I do hope and pray that this message is something your heart needs to hear. Now, thought number 2, it's a small excerpt from the ending of my message. Let's move right into it. It's hard to understand why Jesus will heal in one situation and choose to say no to your prayer in the next situation. But no matter what he decides, he's always with you and he will always love you. Through the trial, it's important to keep your faith and believe in him even when it isn't comfortable. He will give you the strength to rise above it. You just have to be willing to put one foot in front of the other, and then you choose to keep moving and you choose to believe that God will sustain you. Make it your choice to choose God and do not let the enemy have the win. You continue to wait patiently, you continue to pray, you continue to ask for help because God will hear you. But here's the thing. While you're being diligent and patient in affliction, when you finally get your answer from God, you have to be willing to accept the answer you receive. Because his answer, no matter what he decides, is what we have to come to terms with. His answer is what we have to accept. Because what God says, God does, period, end of sentence. God is who he says he is, and what he says goes. And if God doesn't want to fix it, if he doesn't want you to cross through on dry land, but wants you to go through the high winds and the choppy waves, then if you believe in the power of God, if you believe he can do all things, then right now in your difficult situation, whatever the answer, your only priority in this moment is faith. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.